Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of the Daily Racing Form, a weekend preview. I'm Gino Bacola alongside Alexa Zepp. We've got producers Lucia and Bobby helping us out this week. Alexa, next week will be our big Belmont show. We had the Preakness last week, but this week will be fun because we get to head north of the border. We're going to be focusing in on the racing up at Woodbine this weekend. They have 4 graded stakes races on Saturday. It's a really good Saturday card.
Yeah, it is. And Woodbine is just a really fun track. It's a beautiful track if you've ever been there. They have like an awesome hotel right up your whole wall is just a glass view of the track. So definitely try to make it up to Canada to go to Woodbine at some point.
It's a huge track, and the surface, it's not a dirt surface. They actually run on a synthetic surface up there at Woodbine. They also have a turf course too. So the race that we're going to start to preview is going to be race number 8, and it's going to be the Royal North, the Grade 3 Royal North. So these are horses going 6.5 furlongs on the turf, fillies and mares, and we got a big field to meet in here, Alexa. We can start things out with Metaphysical, who comes off of a win most recently, but Metaphysical hasn't raced since December and is 0 for 6 on the turf. So I feel like I kind of want to see a race on this surface and maybe want to see a race from this horse. She hasn't raced in over 5 months now.
Yeah, she won in her 2024 debut against Easier Company going 7 furlongs and then won at the end of the meet again, like you said. But the stakes races in between really weren't strong and, like you said, has not run on the turf course. So kind of a wild card, probably not strong enough for this field.
The number 2, Tupi, I think is one of the major players in here. I've seen her out here in Southern California. She's run really well at Santa Anita down the hill going 6.5 furlongs. So she likes this trip, Alexa, and she's a Grade 3 winner. She just feels like a player in here.
Yeah, she was really game in the Grade 3 Giants Causeway last out at Keeneland. Hasn't won on like a flat turf race since June of 2024 because at Santa Anita, those are downhill on the turf. But I think it's really probable that she'll duel with the likely favorite Earhart for the early lead. And she has class, she has speed, and she gets Lasix.
Number 3, Freedom Speaks, is a stakes winner who will put the blinkers on in here. She's actually entered in this race and then another race over the weekend. Do you think she has a shot?
I mean, she's been winless since 2022, and it's her 3rd different barn since then. So I don't know. None of that speaks super promising for her.
So since that race in 2022 when she won at Kentucky Downs, she's faced 6 stakes races. She's faced stakes horses 6 times,
Yeah.
and she has not really been close, like in most of these races. So that's my problem.
Tendency to be in the right position, but not be able to outfinish the competition. So
This is a really competitive group too as we move to Dancing Duchess. She's a multiple stakes winner. She had a nice win in the Alley Wow Stakes. That was last year at Woodbine, going 6.5 on the turf. So you know she can win a race like this, but kind of another one who since that win hasn't really been in her best form.
yeah, she ran at Gulfstream and Keeneland to start the season. Had a pair of 4th place finishes. Has finished 4th in all of her 4 career efforts against older horses and faces this open competition, which means just probably a tougher competition in this spot as an Ontario bred. Yeah, I don't think she's likely to be quick enough to get the position on the lead that she probably wants.
Horse who I think is very sneaky in this race is the number 5, Ready to Jam. She's going to come second start back now after a 6.5 month break. And if you look at her races throughout her entire career, Alexa, she just doesn't really want to go longer. So you can cross out the races when she races a mile because that's too far for her. You can really look at her form. She's very good sprinting. She has both of her career wins over this turf course, and she can be a little bit closer early on in this race. I'm going to use her in the mix. What do you think about Ready to Jam?
You know, you talk about her. I like her too. I didn't actually end up using her, but I think she makes sense in here. She ran once at Woodbine at age 3 and won going 6 furlongs on the turf against Much Easier. But that was a career best figure. So I think she's an improving type who can pass, horses in these short races. So if the pace is really fast, she could definitely hit the board.
Should be a really fair price too. Like she's 12 to 1 on the morning line. I could see her being somewhere in like the 8 to 1 and above range. I think that's really fair value for her. A Ticker Tape Home is a Grade 3 winner on the synthetic. Feels like she's been a little bit better on that surface though versus the turf.
Yeah, she ran against Earhart in the Grade 3 Whimsical Stakes, who's the favorite in here. Kept up with her most of the way before fading. So she did win third off the layoff at age 3, and then fourth off the layoff at age 4. So she could still fire in here. I think she'll want to be near the pace and make a run. Husbands and Cassie, her connections, have won the last 2 renditions of this race combined. So they're both looking for their 6th career Royal North victory Saturday.
Both Ticker Tape Home and Miss Tart finished behind Earhart. So Miss Tart was third in that race in the Whimsical, but she's another who I think is a little bit better on the synthetic. And if Lucia, producer, wants to pull up our replay of Earhart, we can take a look because they're all coming out of that same race. So Miss Tart is finishing third in here, you could see, and then the winner, Earhart, who's drawing off and winning this race really easily. She's the 8 who we'll talk about next, and she's just really good right now, Alexa. She's won 3 of her 4 races, and it's just tough to knock what she's done overall. But as we see, this is not the grass that they're running on, it's the synthetic. So she has to prove she can run on the turf, but her dam won on the turf, and she feels like she should be fine on it with her pedigree.
Yeah, I mean, Earhart, I think, is really strong. I'll just pass over Miss Tartan here. I mean, was shot out of cannon in that race, won wire to wire, and may have been approaching No Ball's track record. No Balls is another really great horse if she wasn't geared down in the late stretch there, as you saw. But like you said, making a turf debut, where trainer Josie Carroll has 0 wins in the last 24 starters, but this is a much better horse. Like, this is a really strong horse. So, and she's won in all of her 3 starts where she's gotten an uncontested lead.
Wee Hawkin comes up next. The last 2 races were the last 2 times we saw her on the turf at Woodbine. Actually, pretty good efforts, and she's won 3 of her 5 races on the grass. But recently, since she's changed barns, she actually hasn't been in as good a form, and she's trained now by one of the best trainers in the game, Safi Joseph Jr. So she's one that I kind of going back and forth on. Just doesn't seem like she's in her best of form, but we know she does like this turf course.
Yeah, I mean, all 4 of her lifetime wins have been recorded at Woodbine. So, you know, horse for the course, right? But I don't think her speed figures really line up with competitively with some of the other ones in here. So it's definitely going to be a tough placing. And you see that in the odds at 20-1 or plus 2,000.
We round out the field with the number 10 Gal in a Rush. And this one, I think we have to mention, Alexa. She is trained by Miguel Clement. We don't see the name Christophe Clement. He actually passed away just last week. One of the best trainers in the game in this generation, who we remember from winning big races like the Belmont Stakes with Tonalist. He actually passed away recently. And the horses now that were in his name will be transferred over to others. A lot of them will go to the Miguel Clement barn. And Gal in a Rush will now be running under that name. There'll be a lot of people rooting for this horse too, for Christophe Clement, who was a trainer who was very, very well respected.
Yeah, see if Miguel can kind of carry on his, father's legacy. But Gal in a Rush actually is my top pick in here. Finished second behind Earhart in the Whimsical and returns to the turf for the first time since a second place effort in the Grade 2 Intercontinental Stakes at Saratoga last 2. So yeah, I mean, I think she has a tremendous amount of grit and experience. So we'll see.
Yeah, as we pull up selections, we'll go through them. And then as we get ready for our break, we'll actually show you how you guys can follow along with the past performances. You can check out some of the race of the day stuff at DRF.com. But Alexa, your selections, lots of similar numbers for us in the mix there. You're going to throw the 10 on top. And I can understand because she actually might be better getting back to the turf.
Yeah, I like Gal in a Rush. I'm putting her on top, get some price there at 6-1. And then I have Tupi, Earhart, and Ticker Tape Home underneath.
Yeah, lots of similarities too. I think the only different horse that we have, Alexa throws in the 6, I throw in the 5 on top, hoping we can get a little value there for Ready to Jam, who is 12-1 on the morning line. After that, we both have Tupi in the 2nd spot, the 8 horse also as a major player, Earhart, and then we all throw in Gal in a Rush in the mix as well. But the important part is who you're going to play. When you do, we want you to head on over to drf.com, shop.drf.com, or just scan the QR code. It'll take you right to the race of the day for our free analysis. Don't go anywhere. More Woodbine when we return. welcome back to the Daily Racing Form Weekend Preview. We're going to move along at Woodbine from race 8 to race 9 on Saturday, May the 31st. We're going to take a look at the Grade 2 Eclipse. Alexa, I thought another very challenging race here. They'll go 1 mile and a 16th on the synthetic. We have 4-year-olds and up, so these are the older boys in here, and we can start from the inside with Possible Mente. He has 7 wins. 3 of them have been on the synthetic. So just on paper, actually fits pretty well here. I think a couple question marks with him because he's coming into a new barn. And I wonder what kind of running style they want, but he was a horse that initially I looked at and I kind of went past. And then after finishing the race, I kind of came back to him and thought he had a little bit more of a shot than I gave him at first glance. What do you think about Possible Mente?
Okay, yeah. I mean, like you said, he's in a new barn. He was purchased for $65,000 in the digital sale in February, which is a new type of sale that's really been popular. Are these digital sales that are popping up every month almost? But he ran 5th in the Grade 3 Tampa Bay Stakes prior to that race, which the only next out winners haven't really been at high levels, but has only finished out of the money once on synthetic surfaces in 8 attempts. So definitely likes the surface. This is a big step up, but speed figures show this horse could potentially be competitive near the lead.
And what's key is that the way the race shapes up too. Like if you're looking at the projector there's a couple horses who are fast, like Get Smoking, who we'll talk about in a minute. He's quick, but he's not necessarily that fast at the shorter distances, like really he'll run them off their feet. So maybe the one Possible Mente can at least hang around and get a good trip in here. Data Man has won most recently and is in very nice form right now. Alexa won the Cliffhanger horse who won a stakes race won the Cliffhanger Stakes last year, and then just beat a horse who won the Cliffhanger Stakes this year. First time synthetic though. We have a look of a turf victory right here. This was at Laurel Park. So if he can transfer the form from the grass to the synthetic, he'll be a major player. But there are 2 horses kind of like that in this race, him and Webslinger, who are both talented, but we have to see them run on a new surface for the first time.
Yeah, both surface and first time at Woodbine. But, like you said, has shown plenty of ability on the turf, winning 5 of 13 career turf starts. And he gets Franco aboard for the first time, but the Franco and Motion, Combination Motion's the trainer, are hitting at 25%. So definitely has good connections. And Motion is always very, very thoughtful about placement of his horses.
The number 3, Get Smoking. He's very quick early on. He's proven at Woodbine, and he has wins all the way up to 1.5 miles. He hasn't been quite as good making his first start of the year, though. He seems like a horse who may need a couple races to build up his stamina. But all that being said, like any knocks on him, this is a great spot for him because it doesn't look like there's all that much other early speed in here. He might be able to get the lead and clear the field, and he's got a lot of back class. He's faced good horses throughout his career.
He's very fast. And I have a close place in my heart for Get Smoking because the ownership group that owns him actually introduced me to horse ownership. I bought in my first couple of horses through them and they were winners. So I was hooked forever is what inspired me to start my own racing syndicate, Haphazard Racing. So, and every time I don't play Get Smoking, I get burned because he's a really good horse, but once again, I'm not going to use him in here. I think he'll be on the pace. The question is just if he can, hold on.
Cool Kiss is Grade 3 place, was actually second in the Ontario Derby, was put up from third via a DQ. This horse hasn't raced though since back in October and doesn't have that much early speed. So those are some of my concerns. I wish he had more recent form.
Yeah, he ran into of the Canadian Triple Crown legs in 2023, got 7th in the King's Plate, 4th in the Prince of Wales. But yeah, hasn't faced Stakes Company in a hot minute and can close into a field if the setup works out for him, but is very much kind of like an inconsistent type. So he's hard to endorse for the win, but he could be usable underneath at long odds.
The 5 Classic Motown was a little bit interesting in here. He was second in the Valedictory back in December, and that was here at Woodbine on the synthetic. He's been over at Gulfstream Park recently, and while he finished 4th in his last 2 races, and one of them is right here, these are not bad efforts at all. Like he's 4th, only beaten 2 lengths, and then he's 4th, only beaten a half length, which means like if there's just 1 or 2 little small things that go differently, he may have been able to win the race instead of finishing 4th here. So I think he might. It's all about the trip for him because he's not that fast early, but I don't think he's far off from this group and from winning a race like this.
Yeah, I agree. He's victorious on both the Tapeta and the inner turf course last year at Woodbine, and had a stretch last year where he hit the board in 8 straight starts. So he's really consistent. He can close and show tactical speed, and he has some strong workouts. So I think he could be involved at 8-1.
Stanley House is my fun long shot in here, Alexa. And just following the Woodbine circuit a couple years ago, I remember that this course was really highly regarded. And when you were mentioning some of the Canadian Triple Crown races, he ran in some of them. He actually was third in the King's Plate. He's multiple graded stakes placed, and he exits some pretty strong races. He faced a horse named Fort Washington, who you and I saw win over at Pimlico just a couple weeks ago. So looking at the way the race sets up, the projectors actually have Stanley House on the front. I think he'll probably be second. Like, I wouldn't be shocked to see Get Smoking on the lead and Stanley House right behind, but I think he will be like up in that mix early on. And I don't think there'll be a lot of horses up there. I feel like he can kind of outrun his odds and hang around for a slice. So I tried to sell you a little bit on Stanley House. What do you think about the 6?
You're higher on him than I am, but he's very consistent check casher. You know, he finished second or third in 5 straight stakes efforts at Woodbine. 2 of his 3 career wins have been at this home track. I just don't know if he's going to have enough to pass at the end. I think he'll want that position sitting off the lead, like you're talking about.
Web Slinger, the number 7, has had a really nice career on the turf. He is a grade 2 winner. He's multiple grade 1 placed. And overall, he might be like the classiest horse in the field, but he's never been on the synthetic, and he's a little bit of a deeper closer. He was on the lead last time, but that was in a way different race going longer. So, I mean, if he shows up with a good effort, he's going to be pretty tough here.
Yeah, absolutely. He is my top pick in here. And I mean, he's pocketed nearly $1.5 million in his career, installed as the second favorite in here, plus 200. And the only question mark is the surface, but he's just so classy and talented. I'm willing to take a gamble on that and play him.
We could take a quick look at Dancing in Denial and then pull up our selections. I couldn't quite get to this one, Alexa, because he has to improve on Get Smokin', Classic Motown, Stanley House. They've all outfinished him recently. So when we move to selections, I'm looking for a price in here. I threw Stanley House on top, but then a lot of similarities underneath. We both have the 5 and 7 in the mix there, all rounded out with the 3. Alexa throws the classy Web Slinger on top, 7524 for her. We'll take a quick break. More Woodbine when we return. Okay, we'll finish up this week's show over at Woodbine with a couple quick hits on some good graded stakes races, because they have 4 graded stakes races overall. But one of them, Alexa, starts things out. It's race number 1 on Saturday. It's the Jacques Cartier. We didn't necessarily have to do a horse by horse for this one because it's just a field of 4. And you don't see this too often. 1-9 on the morning line. Patches O'Houlihan. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. Shout out. Love that movie. He has run 15 times in his career. He's won 12 of them, and he's finished second in another. So 13 of the 15 races, he's run first or second. The 2 times he didn't run in the top 2 were races that were followed by long layoffs. So they were likely races where he had some kind of an injury or a reason to not be racing. Like, he's about as good as they come. He shows up every single time. And I think he was worth spending a minute or 2 on, because you just don't see horses that are like this in this day and age that win this often. They know what he's good at, sprinting. He's great on the synthetic. He can win on the turf too. He's just a really cool horse.
He's so talented. He was the 2024 Canadian Horse of the Year at the Sovereign Awards. His lone blemish was a defeat in the Grade 2 Kennedy Road to No Balls, who just set a new turf course record at
And that's
Churchill
a Breeders'
Downs this
Cup
past
winner
week.
also.
Won the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint in 2023. So, I mean, Patches O'Houlihan is no joke, and you do not see very frequently a horse with a morning line of 1-9 odds. I mean, that is a really, really low odds on this horse, but deserved. I mean, he's so good.
So you're getting back 10 cents for every $2 that you bet. You'll get back $2.10 for your $2. That just shows you.
That's what Flightline was.
Yeah, that dominant on paper. And what ends up happening, like you wonder why some of these fields are small, because the horses that are in his division, they don't want to face him
Yeah.
anymore. They're sick of it. Like they've gotten beat by him over and over the last couple of years. They'll try other surfaces, they'll try other races, or they'll go to other tracks if they're a sprinter on the synthetic and they don't want to have to deal with
You don't
Patches
want to be
O'Houlihan.
the one who's always, this reminds me, so Winx is an incredible horse in Australia, and I always felt so bad for Happy Clapper because Happy Clapper was just always second to Winx. And it's like when you're so good, but you just have one of these,
Better horses, right?
Yeah, horses in your division. It's just a bummer. So yeah, nobody wants to face him.
So that's going to go as great race number 1 on Saturday, the grade 3 Jacques Cartier. I actually kind of like that they put a race that isn't the best betting race, but you're going to still get to see a really good horse right off the bat to start things off. And then what they do is they put the more competitive races later in the card, like the races that we looked at, race 8, race 9, and then we can move to race 10, which is the Belle Mahone. That makes it more challenging when you're putting your parlays or your pick 4s and your pick 5s together, when you have races like this where there are a bunch of different horses you could use. So just kind of setting this race up, Alexa, the one, Dana's Beauty, is a horse who loves these types of surfaces, these synthetic surfaces. She's been really good at Turfway, where they have synthetic surfaces. Now she's going to come up to Woodbine. I think she's a major player. The number 2, Caitlin Her Greatness, she actually won the King's Plate last year. So as a gal, she beat the boys in what would be the Canadian Kentucky Derby. She's got to be considered a major player in here. And then if you go all the way to the outside, the number 9, Fashionably Fab, she actually won this race last year off an almost identical pattern. She had raced in December and not since December. And then she showed up and won the race off like a 6-month layoff. So I think those are 3 of the major players in here.
Yeah, I mean, Caitlin Her Greatness is last year's champion 3-year-old filly in Canada following her King's Plate triumph. This is her seasonal debut. She's got some really good workouts, 4 straight bullet work. So bullet work is of all the horses that worked out that morning, who was the fastest. Just some really fast preps coming into this. So if she's ready to roll, she can totally dominate in this field the second the gates open. And then Fashionably Fab, as you mentioned, on the outside at 5-1, a little better odds than you're getting on Caitlin Her Greatness at 5-1, but also a champion, the reigning Canadian Queen 2024 Sovereign Award winning older female horse. She won this last year, I think, right? So trying to go back to back and defend her title in here. So she'll need to time things right, but has a major chance in here as well. There's just a lot of really good, talented horses. You can see even on the pace projector, it looks pretty competitive.
Yeah, and that's what makes this late sequence and some of the late races on Saturday at Woodbine really challenging. I'll throw out the 4, Literate, as a horse who's going to make her 3rd start of the form cycle, and she's run some really good races at Woodbine. She's also interesting. Even the 7, 4 Flying, who's a Group 1 winner in Brazil, but will try the synthetic for the first time. That's going to do it for us this week. It was fun, Alexa, getting to talk a little Woodbine. We haven't been up there this year too much, but next week we're going to be talking all about the Belmont Stakes. We'll have a preview show that'll run a bunch of times throughout the week. See you next week.